We're going to be talking about the scroll saw today and how it's used and the blade, the way it's put in, how the vacuum works to keep it dust free, how to change the speed, how to turn on and off the machine, make any adjustments you need to make. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to trace my template right here where you can see it. I'm going to hold the template tight. Notice how close I am to the edges of the wood because I don't want to use any more than I have to. This assures that we have a good supply of wood. Just in case we start running out, everybody will have some. So I've traced around that. Now we're going to move over to here. I'm going to turn on the machine. Always want to make sure that I have a pair of safety glasses on before I begin. I have it on really slow speed. Some people really like it that way. I prefer it to be a little faster, so I'm going to turn it up. I have my safety glasses on. My hair would be tied back if it were any longer than this. I'm going to start cutting. I'm going to stop here for a second to show you the amount of dust that's building up because we don't have the dust control system on while we're doing this video. We're going to turn it on and show you the difference. This has to be up out of the way, depending on the thickness of your material. It probably will work at this distance, but I can also lower it down a little bit, get it closer like that, just adjust it. So when I do have the air on, it will pick up all this fine dust. See how I can't see my line unless I blow off the chips? And we want to try to avoid that because we don't want to have any more dust in here than possible. So I'm going to turn this on now. Now I have the dust system on. I'm going to go ahead and pull the blast gate open. I'm going to try this cut again. We're going to see a difference. You can see your line very clearly now. And all you got to do is steer and follow your line. Notice how I'm leaving a pencil line showing so I can go over to the sander and fix it. Get it right up to the line. Now, at this point, I cut out at this to show you something. I've also turned off the dust control because it's way too loud during the video. So we're going to have to deal with that as we make more cuts, not having it on. But I want to show you over here, I cut very close so I could go to the sander and clean it up. Over here, I haven't cut so close. I want you to avoid this problem of going to the sander and trying to get rid of this all at once for a couple of reasons. One, you're using up too much sandpaper. Number two, you're creating too much dust from it. So with the dust control system on, I would have completed this cut like this. And you're going to see a difference again because the dust control system isn't on. It's harder to see unless I blow it off. Okay, now there's another thing I need to show you while we're at this, is that I have to hold the material down firmly. You almost saw it jump there for a minute. If I have this on and I don't hold this, you can see what it's doing. I gotta hold it down firmly for it to make its cut. Also, the scroll saw is really good at making really tight turns. You turn it without pushing forward, you can turn really sharp. Everybody should be able to do this if they're going to be working on this. And I know a lot of people are scared and they don't want to turn that hard, but that's what you have to do to make a turn like that. From this new vantage point, you can see how close I have this, the tip of the exhaust system, so it'll pick up the dust when it's turned on. And if I bring up a thicker piece of wood, it doesn't fit now. So I'm going to take and bend it so it gets the space I need, get close to the wood, and yet when this comes down, it's not going to knock on it. So if I turn it on, I'm ready to make the cut. And you can see that without the dust control system, we have a lot of dust building up. And every time we deal with that dust, it's getting into the air and getting into our lungs. Now you've seen me cut the outside of this. What if I don't want to cut the outside? What if I only want to cut the inside? Well, this is just a piece of scrap. You wouldn't normally cut this close to the edges on an inside, but I'm just going to show you. I drilled a hole in it. Now I'm going to pull this tab up. Now you can pull this clear out of the way, put this down on the table, pull it forward a little bit to bring this back down. Put it in position, lock it in. And whatever you do, don't sit there and winding this thing up and down. Leave it the way it is. People are always knocking it out of adjustment and then the blades come loose when someone's using it, and that's not a good thing. So now I'm ready to cut. When I get to a sharp corner, there are ways to turn that corner, but if you're not used to it, you're going to have to practice. So if you aren't used to it, you can always back out of this cut and start from the other direction. But let me just show you how I would do it normally. Normally I wouldn't stop to explain it. I would just start doing this. Stop at the cut and start turning. Don't push, just turn. Now I've made that corner, and I keep going. Because I don't have the exhaust system on, it's kind of hard to see where I am, and it means that I left more line than I would like to, but you guys, you might leave that much line all the time, and that's what you're used to. As long as you get close, you can go over to the oscillating spindle sander and you can sand the outside of this. I mean, you can sand up to the line. That's what I meant. So now to get it back out, I just reverse. I'm going to pull up the tab. You just pull this forward if you want and exit because you don't have as skinny a hole. Put it back down. Okay, while we're close up on this, I'm going to show you something while it's running. Most people wouldn't risk doing this, but if I try to cut from the back side, there's no teeth. I could actually touch it with my finger, no teeth. It's the front side that's going to grab and cut, so you don't want to touch the front. However, at the sides, you can get really close. As long as you're pushing this way, you can get closer. So you have, when we talk about the safety zone around a blade, this one has kind of an egg shape to it. Far away from here, closer, and real close back here is fine. You can get closer on the sides because if you're pushing and something goes wrong, you're just going to go through. But if you're on the front and something happens, you can't pull back quick enough. You're going to end up cutting your finger. One of the cuts I made earlier was right here, and I made this cut for you. And then before, I had done one of these. What I want you to think about is the fact that the other side comes into play. You can see the splintering going on here. And on this piece of MDF, you can see the way the backside looks more ragged. It'll take a little bit of sanding. But this one with veneer on it, look what it happened to this one. So you have to keep in mind that this happens. This is hickory on the back, and hickory does this really bad. But most of the veneers are going to do that. So if you have something with a veneer grain like this on it, be prepared for that to happen. What I was going to say to you was to take a piece of scrap wood out of the scrap box and make a squiggle that you can follow, and then practice cutting before you get on here and actually do your project. When I talk about laying out your templates in mirror image so that those splintering effect that you get from the saws don't show, Here's what I'm referring to. Each of these have instructions on them. You can see them. Make one at 3/4 inch thick. This is your center piece. This is the one where if you aren't careful and you get a lot of splintering, you're just going to have to sand it out when it shows. Whereas this one, this is the wiener dog we're talking about. You can see the center one with the nose is here in the middle. This one is a side piece like this with the legs. It's 1/2 inch. You make 2 of them. So you'll have one like this, then you flip it over, and you can position it any way you want as long as they're close together, and you would trace it out. That way you end up with mirror image if you always flip. These two are the same way. I can trace one of these, flip it, trace it again. And the ears. And in a spot I might have a little room for an ear here, then I would ear there. When you put all of it together, all of the splintering sides that we talked about, now this one was obviously the worst because I wasn't trying to be careful, but all of this, if I turn it the correct way on my project and glue it down, you don't see those splinters. Then if I wanted one like that on the other side and I didn't cut it in mirror image, this is what I would end up getting. That's why I want mirror image, so that it shows like this on both sides, clean. Less sanding, less work, and it looks good when you're done.